Percy was taking some empty trucks from the harbour to the big station. He had handled them well, and was thinking of how to boast it to Thomas and Toby. Thomas won't think I'm silly anymore. He'll see that I'm a really useful engine. Thomas still hadn't forgotten about the time when he thought Percy had purposely let Cole spoil his paintwork. I'll show him, thought Percy. Maybe if he wasn't so preoccupied with this, he would have noticed the tree that had fallen on the line in front. "Look out!" said his driver. They applied the brakes, but it was too late. Percy crashed into the tree. His front was badly damaged, but he was more startled than hurt. Thomas usually would have laughed, but he was still cross at Percy. "It's your own fault," he snorted. "You weren't concentrating. First you fall into a coal dump, and then smash into a tree. Now I'll have to do your work or you're being repaired. You're just a silly, accident-prone little engine," he fumed as he flounced away. My, what's gotten into him?" chuckled Toby. "Is this still about what happened with the coal last week?" "Yes, it is," wheezed Percy, "and he won't let it go, so I shan't be speaking to him anymore." And he was right. They didn't speak the next day, or the next. Soon enough, Annie and Clarabelle grew tired. "Why can't you be friends? Why can't you be friends?" they would say. "I will consider being friends when Percy shows more respect to the runner of this branch line." Where does he get that from? Gordon? Gordon. That afternoon, Percy was picking up some passengers from the junction. "Remember the time you threw stones at that big green engine?" said a boy on the platform. "Yes, and I remember how badly our parents punished us for it," said his friend. "Oh, don't be such a drip. It was fun. William and I would have done it again if you didn't stop us." "I'm not the drip, you are." "That's enough chit-chat from you now, boys. We're boarding the train," said their fathers. Percy was confused. His fireman had told him that a drip was when water came through a hole in his cab. What has water leakage got to do with throwing stones at Henry? So that evening he went to ask Henry. "What has a drip to do with boys throwing stones at you?" he asked innocently. But Henry was standing no nonsense. "I haven't time for your games. Us big engines have got work to do, you know." "Huh, they'll just think I'm silly," wheezed Percy. So he went to the sheds to ask Toby instead, and he explained what Percy already knew. "That still doesn't explain why the boy called his friend that. It makes no sense." Thomas interrupted. "A drip is someone who prevents others from having fun." "Oh well, doesn't that remind you of a certain blue tank engine who can't forgive his friend?" And they started again. Even Toby was losing patience now. But Thomas couldn't be cross for long. It was the time of the week of his special excursion train that ran much longer and much further. It was also one of the few times that Thomas went on the main line, so he was able to see all of his old friends again. At noon, he stopped at the harbour station. Thomas sizzled impatiently. "All aboard, all aboard. Right, let's get going." The driver says Thomas set off too fast. Thomas says it was just unlucky. Anyway, the sudden movement caused a large bang, and Thomas stopped. "One of your pistons has snapped off and made a hole in the bottom of your tank," explained his driver. "There's nothing for it. We'll have to call for help from up the line." So they turned off the steam and went to call for help. However, Percy was the only engine available, and he was none too pleased to see Thomas. At first he thought of not helping him and leaving, but then he saw how sad he looked, and also thought of the passengers who needed to get home regardless. So he buffered up to the front of the train, and they headed off home. Eventually, Thomas spoke up. "I'm sorry, Percy, for everything, for how I've treated you. It was disgraceful. I forgive you, and I'm sorry for all I've done. Can we be friends again?" Yes, indeed. There was nothing better Percy could have heard from his little blue best friend.